For as much as they have not had success cooperating and collaborating when it comes to military aircraft, jet fighters, and the like, France and Britain have actually had great luck when it comes to helicopters. Here we have the Westland Puma HC Mark 1, and this is a licensed built version of the, in the beginning, Sud or Sud, and more recently Aérospatiale, which evolved into Eurocopter 330 Puma. I'm not going to get too much into the French military service here, but I will say that it started off around 1962 when the French government expressed interest in wanting a new all-weather, so daytime, nighttime, medium lift transport helicopter capable of carrying about 20 people. And Sud ended up working and coming up with a wholly new design, quickly designated the Puma, with the prototype first flying in 1965. And they would continue on with several more tests until pre-productions were ready to go, flying in 1968. And these would enter into French Air Force and Navy service beginning in 1969. They would be used pretty successfully throughout the 70s and 80s, and France would deploy these in the first Gulf War. They would remain in service to around 2010 there, when they started to be replaced. As for Britain, though, and Westland, seeing early design concepts and prototypes and mock-ups, they were quickly interested, and in 1967 an agreement was signed for Westland to assemble and do some manufacturing on 40 Pumas for the RAF. They would get going, and the first prototype from Westland would fly in November of 1970, with the first two delivered to the RAF in January of 1971, and by the summer of that year, the first squadron would be operational. So what do we have here? I have two on the table to show you. This is an early RAF Puma, stationed in the home islands, I guess you would say, from the 1970s. Over here, we have another version. This is a later Puma, kitted out for warfare in 1991 during Operation First Desert Shield and later Desert Storm. I'm going to move that. I feel like I'm going to bump or something on the cloth. So a little bit more of a militarized version, I guess you would say. So what do we have here? It's a very modern helicopter for its day. It had a crew of 3, at least standard. And it could carry up to 16 soldiers, or if it was used as a medical, it could carry 6 stretchers, plus up to 4 doctors, medics, nurses, what have you. Or, if it was a cargo, a freight, it could carry up to 5,500 pounds, either internally or slung under the fuselage. It was designed to be easy to maintain and not have a lot of high wear parts. Be very, serviceable friendly. Also to have very good performance. This is a very maneuverable helicopter for its size. It actually has retracting landing wheels for better aerodynamics. Its cruise was about 150 miles per hour with a maximum speed of about 160, and it could climb up just shy of 16,000 feet. It's a little over 59 feet long, and if you consider the rotor, it's about 49 feet wide. It can be armed with two 7.62 NATO machine guns and or a 20mm cannon on the side. And that's pretty much what it is. We have a transport helicopter. This was used in Ireland during the so-called Troubles. As you would guess, it was used in 1982 during the Falklands War. Where it transported SAS and others. It seems to be a very popular helicopter with special forces. They have a very good opinion of it, and have done for a long time. I think because it's such a nimble, fast, little darting in aircraft, and I think it does have some just cool points as far as appearance. But and the fact that it can carry a respectable number of folks. As I said, this one was outfitted for use in Desert Storm, so a little more militarized. It had an interesting sand-colored paint scheme that kind of came off as pink. So if it looks pink to you, don't adjust your television sets, that's correct. These were most often used to rapidly transport kind of rapid response troops to and fro during Operation Desert Storm. In fact, they're credited with saving a good number of lives and also some oil fields from being torched by getting troops there in a hurry. They had a good combat record, a good service record, a good reliability record. After 1991, of course, they would remain in service. Oh, I didn't mention, I said they originally purchased 40, that's true. Westland delivered these. In 1979, they purchased 8 more to kind of replace ones they either had high-hour airframes or were lost or damaged beyond repair through attrition. Moving through the 90s, these got to go to all the fun spots like former Yugoslavia. They were also used in Kosovo. Again, they would deliver SAS units. Actually, a French Puma would rescue a British SAS team and a downed Sea Harrier pilot. But they would also be used for humanitarian missions, relief missions, because they were a transport, transporting fresh water, supplies, food, medical gear, whatever. So, again, like a lot of helicopters, it did a lot of good as well. And then, of course, during the Second Iraq War, these were used very heavily, again, to transport troops, 2003, 2009, that time period. Around 3 or 4 were lost during that use, meaning the fleet by around 2010 was down to about 32, 33, depending. A couple of the airframes were kind of iffy as if they had much life left in them. And that would be actually where the HC Mark II would eventually come. Notice I haven't talked about upgrades or anything. Well, there haven't been many. The helicopter, they got it and it worked. Now you'll notice this model is a little different from that one. It does have a few upgrades. They did add GPS as time would go on. They also would add support for night vision goggles. And they would add flare and chaff dispensers as countermeasures. And a few other minor tweaks. This one has larger rotor blades, for example. It also has kind of these covers in front of the engines here for the sandy environment. So a few little regional updates were made, but by and large the helicopter was unchanged for a long time. And you know, with 48 and 33 still flying, that's pretty good. Now it's worth pointing out during the Falklands War, Britain would capture one Argentinian Navy Puma and kind of use it. And then in 2002 they would purchase 6 Pumas made under license in South Africa. So they would have a total of 55 of these at service at one time or another. Still a very good rate though for a helicopter. Ultimately, they were going to convert. They figured that about 28 of the remaining ones had airframes worthy to convert to Mark IIs. Then they downed that to 22 for budget reasons. Then they upped the conversion back up to 24, which began around 2012 and is over now. So the remaining ones in service have been upgraded to the Mark II. And they're not expected to be retired until sometime mid-next decade. But who really knows? Very good service life. It's not a especially modern or whatever helicopter, but it's durable, solid, and because of its relatively heavy capacity, but it's not so big like a Chinook where it has trouble landing. It's kind of that just right. It's big enough to carry enough, but not so big that, has a hard time getting in and out of where it needs to be. Well, what about the models themselves, real quick? I've talked about Corgi helicopters a number of times, so there's not much new to say. These are primarily all diecast, 1/72 scale. They do have moving doors, if I don't drop it. And even a little crew figure in there. These were used for search and rescue and other things. So little guy may be ready to jump out into the ocean. There's also a pilot in front. This is more of a, not civilian one, but utility one. It has the smaller rotors. I'd imagine the larger one's the newer composite. They spin. Tail blades spin as well. And these do come with 2 sets of landing gear. You can show them with gear down or gear up. Your choice. And the wheels do roll. Even when they're gear up, the wheels actually are still a separate piece. They can move, which is a very small but kind of fun little detail. But yeah, I've showed you quite a few RAF helicopters, and the Puma, I think, is one of the neater ones. I think they're all neat, though, so it's not probably saying a whole lot. Alrighty, guys, I appreciate you tuning in. If you haven't, you might check out my video on the Eurocopter for more French, or maybe the Lynx, or Wessex, or Apache, or nothing at all if you're bored. This is Misha. I appreciate you tuning in, and I'll catch you very soon next time.